How good is the official F1 Esports wheel? Well, to find out, I've bought it. It is the Fanatec CSL Elite F1 set, and I managed to pick it up in the Black Friday sale. They were doing 20% off. They don't normally do any discounts, so I jumped on that discount. It's normally about €700 plus shipping, so I ended up getting it after shipping and after discount for about €580, which works out about 520 British pounds or so. So not a small amount of money. It's quite an expensive wheel, but just how good is it? Well, before we get into that, let's take a closer look at the wheel. See here, I'm just running some benchmark mode so we can see the wheel in action. So you get live speed, you also get a shift light, also a shift light on the base there itself, which is quite nice. Very, very fast updating. You can see there, the numbers are changing all the time. Really, really fast polling on that, which is nice. Really nice wheel, really nice grip, so comfortable, so smooth. Of course, not going to be able to see the force feedback from this wheel, but I just wanted to show you a bit closer exactly what you're seeing here. So this comes with the PlayStation buttons by default. This is the confirmation there that it is indeed the F1 wheel. So you get the PlayStation buttons, the X, square, triangle, circle, L2, L3, R2, R3 there. You also get an analog stick here that's completely free, just like it would be on a controller. It also clicks in. You also get another D-pad style here that can't actually rotate fully around. It can only go up, down, left or right. If I try and turn it there, I can't. It does twist as well though. Like that. Twist both ways, of course, for an additional control there. Of course, you've got your usual share and options button as well at the bottom. These, of course, buttons here in the middle have got surrounded by a little plastic, yeah, it is plastic surround, which just makes it a bit easier on the feel. So it makes it less easy to knock it. So when you're playing around with this, you're less likely to knock that button. And of course, your hands then, when you're racing, can easily feel which button you're pressing, and it's very much a press-in style button. All the buttons as well got a nice feel to them. Just listen to how they sound. Don't sound the most premium buttons in the world, but they're really nice. And these have also got caps on them. They just pop off like so. So you can replace those with any other. It does also come with a different set of stickers you can apply, of course, onto the shifters now. On the back here, I was quite surprised to see, the light, I was quite surprised to see that you got quite exposed. You can see some wiring there and some circuit boards. But actually that's because it's all adaptable. You can see here there's a couple of bolts there you can adjust, so you can actually slide the shifter forward a little bit. And again, a nice click to that. It doesn't feel a need to have an artificial click to it where it goes, click, click, like a lot of the other wheels do. None of that. It's just the physical sound of the actual shifter. Listen to this. So there's no real kind of artificial click. The only click is of the physical shifter itself moving, which I really, really like. Of course, you've got the quick release as well here at the back. It won't work at the moment because I've got the bolt on the bottom for safety there. Once that bolt is out, it's a very quick release. Just like on a real racing car, you just pull that, this bit here, and then it just slides straight on off. And that's about it. Up here, you've got the on button, of course, back here, and different modes as well. That's for the PlayStation versus PC modes. Down the bottom, you've got the pedals. I will bring those out for you so you can have a look underneath, because that is really where the magic happens with these pedals. And there we go, there's the underneath. So you can see there, you've got a kind of an interface box where everything plugs into. And importantly, everything's modular. And that's what's incredible about this wheel, is that you've got a brake here. This is just a standard brake, not the load cell brake, that then plugs into this interface up here. And the throttle, much the same, plugs into the interface. And then the interface itself has then got a detachable wire up to the wheel. It's all completely modular. You also don't actually need to use this front, this footrest, this foot plate here that I'm tapping. You can just attach these pedals directly to the cockpit, and everything is also completely adjustable as well. There's so much you can change with this wheel. It is all just completely adjustable, which is really, really nice. Of course, lots and lots of bolts everywhere, so you can bolt everything in as and when you need to. But everything is just so well made, so solid. If I can put that back, that'll do for now. So well made, so solid, really clearly premium. But my favourite bit really about the build is that it's all modular. If something breaks, you just replace that part. Of course, the rim comes off. All the pedals are completely modular. All the wires as well are pretty much modular. Obviously, in the wheelbase itself isn't necessarily modular. But you've also got the external power supply there. So if the power supply goes, you can just replace that. Everything about this wheel is modular, really, and that is what's fantastic. Including the buttons, as I said, they pop off. Including the shifters, you can even change the shifters for different ones. There is also some mounting points here, as you can see. I don't really know what those are for at the moment. Just below that, the wheelbase shifter, the wheelbase shift lights, I should say there. But yeah, overall, really nice wheel close up. Well worth the money. So that was a closer look at the wheel, but what is it really like then? So in front of you here, you're seeing my first laps of the day. This was after about 2 hours or so of using the wheel, so I'm a little bit used to it at this point. But what is it like? Well, put it this way, it's probably the best thing I've ever bought. And that isn't an exaggeration. I've bought a lot of things in my life, but this, honestly, it's absolutely incredible. I don't spend, 100 hours a week on my wheel. Although my job is to be a content creator, I actually probably only spend, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 hours a week on the wheel. So, a fair chunk, but not a ridiculous amount of time. Even despite that, this is probably the best thing I've ever bought. It's probably the best bang for your buck thing I've ever bought, even though it's £520, because it is absolutely sublime. It is honestly so good. Now, let's first of all start with kind of, I guess, the build quality and how it feels, and you can tell it's such a premium product, and from the very moment of getting it out of the box, even the box design, you could tell that this product is incredibly well thought out. Every single part of it has been designed excellently. It's been thought out fantastically. It's all modular. It's all really nice build quality. Even the cables, all of those are not built into the device. They're all separate. So, if you break a cable, which is very easy to do, you just have to get a new cable. You have to get a whole new wheel, which a lot of wheels come with, a lot of the cables built in. So even down to that sort of granular level, the build quality is absolutely excellent. It feels so nice. I'll get onto the force feedback a little bit later on, but just purely in terms of the actual quality of the thing, it is incredible. Really nice quality. It isn't cheap, but you hope that it feels nice because of that, and it really does. So moving on now then to actually driving it, and I tell you what, the force feedback on this wheel is like no other. I'm sure there's better devices out there that have got better force feedback, but I've driven quite a few wheels in the past. I've spent a lot of time with my Logitech Driving Force GT, which is a gear-driven force feedback system. I then bought a G29, which is also gear-driven, but it's 7 years newer than that older wheel, thinking it's going to be quite a bit better. It wasn't. It was barely better than my previous wheel. And then going to this, it's honestly, it makes the Logitech wheels feel like a pad in comparison. That's how much better it is. It's honestly not even comparable to how much better and different it feels on the force feedback. This wheel is so smooth, it's so responsive, it's so detailed in what you can feel. One thing it's definitely done is made me more consistent, and that again is completely down to feel. So particularly through the high speed sections like we're going through now, I've got so much more feel for the car. There's a lot more wheel weight. Obviously, there's going to be more weight. The motor's a lot more powerful. There's going to be a lot more weight. But, that makes a difference. But also just the detail that you get back. You can really feel where the limits of grip are. You can feel when you start to understeer. You can feel when you're washing out wide. You can really feel when the car snaps. And that's the biggest difference. That's the biggest difference to consistency, is that you can really feel when the car just starts to go just a little bit. I'm able to catch it so much easier and so much sooner than I was on my old wheel. It's even better than the Thrustmaster wheels, quite considerably. The Thrustmaster wheels, you can still sort of feel that it's force feedback. There's sort of some notchiness is probably too strong a word to describe what the Thrustmaster wheels feel like. But there is still a feel that there's force feedback. Whereas this wheel, it's so smooth. It's not direct drive. It is a belt-driven wheel, but it's so smooth that it almost doesn't feel like force feedback. It almost feels like a real car. Obviously, it's not, but it's words fail me to describe to you without having driven this wheel for yourself how good force feedback feels. Definitely makes me more consistent. Almost certainly makes me faster as well. And the feel, honestly, I mean, to be honest, I never used to enjoy just the driving aspect of racing games. I used to enjoy the racing aspect, which is potentially why I've never loved time trial. I used to enjoy, trying to, the pressure of qualifying and the pressure of trying to get everything out of it in qualifying. I used to enjoy, obviously, the racing as well, the on-track, competing with other people online. I used to enjoy that, but I never really used to enjoy the kind of just the physical driving, the physical turning the wheel, hitting the brakes. This wheel, all of a sudden, I enjoy it. And I genuinely really enjoy driving. I know that sounds weird. I'm a full-time content creator. I should enjoy the racing, and I did enjoy the racing, but in a different sort of way. And this, I just enjoy physically turning the wheel. I enjoy the act of moving my hands left and right. I enjoy the act of pressing the pedals. And let's move on to the pedals now then. The pedals are also considerably better. I mean, that's obviously a given. These aren't the best pedals you can get. You can get a load cell kit for this. And again, that comes back to how modular this wheel is, and that you can literally just buy the load cell brake pedal alone and fix that to the wheel, which is a really nice touch. Modular once again. But even just the kind of rubberized base pedal where it's literally just kind of a rubber, I don't even know how to describe it, but you're pressing against a rubber thing to the pedal. Now, I'm used to a very, very soft brake pedal. I'm very used to the Logitech Driving Force GT, and I'm used to a very, very soft pedal. But also, I settled into it really, really quickly, and I'm talking about within like 2 or 3 laps. I was like, okay, I'm used to this brake now, and it's better. Of course, not completely used to it, but really ridiculously quickly used to the brake on the car. Considering how much different that is to what I'm used to, just shows how nice it is and how good it is. Whatever material they've used in the rubber is just perfect. It's sort of almost foamy in its depression. It's not like a firm, hard rubber. We have to squeeze really hard against it. It's almost foamy, so it just feels really responsive and really nice. Of course, the throttle as well feels really nice. I mean, obviously, the throttle isn't excessively different, but just the quality of the pedal under your foot just feels nicer. The amount of travel, the amount of stiffness, they've just got all that so right. But obviously, the brake is the main thing for feel. Consider it's a relatively, I guess, basic brake pedal. Obviously, it's quite an expensive brake pedal, but it is a relatively basic brake pedal still compared to the full-on load cell setup you can get. It feels absolutely amazing, and as I said, this is the first brake that I'm using that's sort of stiff. I'm used to a very loose one, and the fact that I got used to it so quickly just shows how natural it feels. Moving on now then to the side-by-side comparison. So on the left, we've got the Logitech Driving Force GT. In the middle, we've got the Logitech G29. On the right, we've got the Fanatec CSL Elite F1 set. So first thing to say straight off the bat is that on the Fanatec, I'm using about 300 degrees of rotation. On the other two, I'm using 280 degrees, which is why you'll often see me steering a little bit more on the Fanatec wheel than you will on the others. So what we're seeing in front of us then? Well, first of all, as you'll notice that the G29, I'm just a bit slower. I just never felt natural on the G29. It just never flowed. It never felt quite right. It always felt like it was just a little bit wrong. On the left, of course, is the Driving Force GT, and that is a wheel that I've used for thousands of hours. So, it's very much just pure practice, and I'm very, very comfortable with that wheel. It's pretty much what I've always raced on. I think that was my very first racing wheel, and I used it up until just a week or so ago. So I've raced an awful lot of time on that, so it's just very much used to that one. Now, the interesting thing, though, is on the right, we've got the Fanatec wheel, and that is probably maybe 2 hours or so of use on the Fanatec wheel. And what you're seeing here is that I'm already as fast as I was on the wheel that I had about, I don't know, maybe 2,000 hours on. And on the Fanatec, after just 2 hours, I'm pretty much on pace with my previous wheel, which is absolutely incredible. And that's just a testament to how natural the Fanatec wheels, how right it feels. It just feels right. You don't have to get used to how weird it feels or to certain nuances within the wheel. It just feels right. It feels like it should. And that is how I'm able to really, really quickly be right on the pace with what I could do with the Logitech Driving Force GT. And you see, I actually did a slightly better lap time with the Fanatec, but pretty much identical, as you can see there, almost exactly the same on the line. But the really interesting point is when we move on to the timings. So what you're seeing here is the top 5 lap times for each wheel. So on the top, we've got the Logitech Driving Force GT. In the middle, we've got the Logitech G29. On the bottom, we've got the Fanatec wheel. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because, as you can see, I'm already more consistent with the Fanatec than I was with the Driving Force GT. Now, I will say I did do less laps with the Driving Force GT. I did sort of roughly similar laps with the G29 and the Fanatec, but the Driving Force GT, I did do less laps, but of course, that's the wheel that I've used for thousands of hours, so I didn't need to do the laps on that one. I was already very much used to the wheel. And as you can see, despite how used I was to my old wheel, I'm more consistent on the Fanatec. And what's most interesting there is the theoretical best. Look how close I managed to get to my theoretical best over 16 laps, just 300ths off it. Whereas on the Driving Force GT, I couldn't get, over a 10th off it. So that's quite a significant difference. And that is the key thing with this force feedback, is that I can be so much more consistent. The pace is bound to come in time. It's inevitable. But really, the consistency is the key thing that's really changed. You get so much more feel, so you can be so much more consistent. So that's it, guys. That's my review on the Fanatec CSL Elite F1 set, the official F1 Esports wheel. It's what all the F1 Esports drivers use. Hope you enjoyed that video. I really do love this wheel. It's honestly such a good purchase. If you can afford this wheel, I highly recommend you buy it. It's not cheap, but it is well worth the money. Let me know if you enjoyed this video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and I thank you for watching. Bye-bye.